We have this very interesting talk today. The borders that shape India's democracy, tracing 150 years of evolution of districts in India. This is some very interesting work that some colleagues at Flame University, led by Professor Shivakumar Jolad, is doing. Basically excavating data from the past census and various other sources to create a district level panel for over the last 150 years or so to create a data set about India's districts and to look at what are the implications of these administrative reconfigurations over time. As we all work in social sciences, we know that this has immense value academically because we always get temporal comparisons as a part of our studies, and any good temporal comparisons needs perfect matching of districts over time. Not only that, this has immense administrative, spatial, and democratic and political manifestations that we have here. It affects delimitation. It affects, transfer of resources from the center to the state and then to the district level, and in some cases also local governance factors in India. So all these things have been carefully curated throughout this project, and it's very interesting. There's a whole website, and Professor Jalad will talk much about that. Uh, uh, so about Professor Jalad is he works an associate professor the public policy at the Flem University, Pune, India. He specializes in demographics and policies, social policies focused on education, migration, and human development. He's also the founding director of India State Stories, a visual immersive archive of India's territorial evolution. Studies the structure of the schooling system, education policy, and governance in India. He also works in quantitative history, focusing on India's constitutional debate, state formation, and administrative evolution. His research spans the structure of India's schooling system, education decentralization, language diversity, and media of instruction, and the impact of COVID-19 on unorganized sector workers, food security, and historical migrations. Professor Jolad has a PhD in physics and a doctoral minor in demography from Pennsylvania State University, USA. Before joining Flem, he was also taught at the Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar. So he has an illustrative career, as you can see, and this work is a testament of the kind of detail that has been gone to this project. Without spending much time, I'll just transfer to you, Shiva, for that. Take it ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shamindra, for this kind introduction. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. So, good morning to you all. So, as Shamindra already introduced, this is a work on, studying the Indian district and how they evolved over the last 150 years. He has given a very big title like "The Border That Shaped India's Democracy." Yeah, they do shape. So, we will try to discuss the challenges, of the Indian districts, the way they have fragmented, proliferated over time. So what we have done is try to create a cartographic evolution over from the colonial era to the present. Okay. Okay. So if you just look at the map of India in 1950 and 2021, these are the district maps. So you don't find any similarity at all. So especially the states have been organized and reorganized, multiple times, and even the districts have changed drastically. Okay. So after partition integration, we had around 28 states. Surprisingly, even now we have 28 states. But after linguistic reorganization, it came down to 14 plus 8 union territories, but we have 28 and 8. But Indian states are also extremely diverse. If you look at the population, you have more than 240 million in UP, and also you have states like Sikkim, which has just 1 million. Similar to states, you also have districts which are vary in size and shape and population and various other parameters. So the number of districts as of 1951 was around 310. Now it is more than around 750. So we use the term seven, more than or something like that because it's not clear. The number of states and union territory you can clearly say a bound, but districts do change. And even when the changes happen, it is not always reflected in the databases immediately. Okay. So Despite this large proliferation and everybody lives in one district in India, so very rarely, like, district study of district receives public attention. Okay, so so this is a snapshot. We built this district tracker. So from the IGOD website, if you actually look at it, we have around 735 districts under the states, around 43 under the union territories. And along with that, we have more than 7,000 sub-districts. Okay. But if you just look at plot a simple map of districts and sub-districts, okay, and along with the population, you see enormous variation. There is no simple pattern. So UP, you do expect a large number of districts, but you have, compared to its population size, it has very little, sub-districts. On the other hand, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, they shoot up. Their population is relatively low. The number of districts are higher, and number of sub districts are even higher, primarily because of the mandals that I think NTR mandal system that NTR set up, right? So there are wide variations, even if you just look at simple pictures like this. So even more, like if you look at uh, even if you look at the area and population and also density, few demographic and geographical characteristics, so you do find that, we find enormous variation. So for example, in the as long 2011, Thane was the district with the largest population. It was 1.1 crore. And there are also districts, which have less than 10,000 population. So sometimes some of the villages themselves have more population than a districts. Even within a state, you do find a lot of variation. Like Ratnagiri has less than, around 10 lakh, whereas Thane has Sindhudurg has around 9 lakh, and Thane has 1 crore. Okay, so there are a lot of variation in the population. And also area. If you look at Laul and Spiti, it's really huge. Kutch as a district, it takes around 11 hours to cross, but still it's a single district. Okay, and then you have districts in the former, let's say, French territories like Puducherry, like which has been fragmented over time. And the state itself, the union territory itself, has 4 different parts in different states. Okay, so India do see this variation in this area also. For example, Puducherry has the smallest area. Sorry, Mahe has the smallest area, only about 9 square kilometers. Okay, Kutch has 45,000 square kilometers. So density also we vary a lot. New Delhi is extremely dense. Mumbai is dense, but there are some places. Laul and Spiti has only around 35,000 people in this huge district. Right? So, and we quantified these things, using Gini index, which is used primarily for the income inequality. And we do find at the national level, population has 0.42. At district, like population density has the highest inequality, like, 0.678, which is considered to be extremely unequal. So the question that comes out is, there is so much of diversity within our districts. It requires little attention. So how did this diversity actually came about, and what are the implications of these things? Okay. So this is not a cultural diversity or a political diversity. This is much more geographic and demographic diversity. Okay. And did we have the same level of disparities even in, like say, in the colonial time? Okay. We tried to investigate, and the initial motivation for investigation was primarily looking at longitudinal evolution of, let's say, some demographic indicators like even migration. Okay, which I couldn't stitch over time because the district themselves change so frequently. Okay. For the audience, I will I don't have to say the importance of districts. It is the core administrative unit linking state to the citizens. District collectorate office is there. It determines the political representation. Of course, a lot of district level planning happens. Service delivery is also largely coordinated by the district offices, and also resource flows. I just know Shamindra says about state district financial flows. Okay. And as you know, like, the modern district essentially is a legacy of the colonial administration. So whenever from the time of the Bengal presidency, district as an administrative unit came up, and collector was there even back then. And we have retained many of the functions of the district collector even to this day. More than the important is, so how are these district created? So like quick one, like, for state creation, it is with the union. District creation is with the state, but the state doesn't even have to have a legislative approval. Most districts are created just by an executive order. Okay, so it's very easy. And one fine day, like you'll find, see in newspaper, oh, 7 new districts have been created and renamed. Okay, so and after that, the news dies down. Okay, so it may not even come in the national newspapers. Okay? But it has like, the justification is largely administrative. It brings administrative closer to the people, but there are also huge costs of district creation. And for researchers and also administrators, record keeping becomes a major challenge when new districts are created. Even for Aam Aadmi, like, new districts is created, officers will change, your address will change at this easy, simplest thing. Okay, and post offices have to update, to give a very simple example, and name boards have to be changed. All Sarkari records you need to change. Okay, so that's a simple thing. So for that, to understand this, we tried to map the evolution from the colonial time, from the earliest uh, records that we get, from 1872. Before that also we had district administration, but from 1872 we start getting in one place in a census. So you get information about the all districts, their maps along. Okay. So the way we did it is, so the Survey of India has the maps, but I think we get it only in the printed format. Census Atlas gives you the printed maps. So we digitized all the maps uh, and then created shape files out of it. Okay. And also annotated all these parts, because the type of district, princely states, were very different from the present day. Okay, back in the colonial era. And the more challenging aspect is actually the stitching the data. So it's cross-sectional data is one thing, but actually comparing over time how the districts have changed over time. So in that way, you have to look at all the districts at a particular time, and the next time period, you have to match each entries. Okay, and when the districts are really small or fragmented, it becomes even more challenge. Okay. So we did this, and then, there is this district evolution page wherein you find around 10 articles which kind of trace this evolution. Okay, maybe I will go through some of them quickly. Okay, so here, broadly the purpose. Okay, of this building data set, it's the first open source data set, spatio-temporal panel data on the Indian states and districts. Okay, and then we have integrated boundary changes with the also the political and administrative history, because none of the districts are formed without any political context within it. So we try to put as much as possible, within it. Okay, the sources are like, census records, Survey of India maps, gazetteers, okay, imperial provincial gazetteers, and also recent state government database and other thing. Okay, so you can look at this in our website for more details. Okay, so periodization is also important, because 1872 to 1941 was the colonial period. We have a mix of the British uh, districts, provinces, and districts along with princely states. So the spatial extent of princely state was almost 48% of the India's area. That is almost half. Okay, so very little is actually talked about it. Okay, and they were also extremely fragmented. I will discuss about it soon. The second most challenge is the 1951, so 41 to 51. It's essentially 47 to 50, where integration of princely states happen and massive reorganization happen. And that was the most challenging part of this whole exercise. And then 1951 to 2011, we get it from the census records. And 2001 onwards, it's again fragmented, because so you don't have a comprehensive map which gives you the all districts at a time. People have voluntarily done some parts here and there. And state government sometimes put up, but they don't give a shape file. Like, it's a challenge, especially the more recent part. Okay. ठीक है. So, and then, there are some secondary data analysis and contextualization that we have done. Okay. So let me quickly walk you through the website, because it's easier to see how it is. So if you go through, okay, so if you go to this India State Stories, there is districts in India 1872 to 24. Okay. So here you will see around 10 articles. I will quickly go through few of them. So districts in colonial era is going to trace about, how the districts evolved during the colonial era. So administrative divisions at different time periods like 1872, 1881, okay? And the changes that happened every decade, 1872 to 1881, the provincial changes, so individual district changes, to give a simple example, central provinces came into being only in 1862. It had 19 British districts and princely states. At a later part, you will see the central provinces and Berar, which was part of the Hyderabad, it was mixed, okay? And Bombay presidency even had Sindh at some point, but Sindh was partitioned at a later stage. Okay, Bombay presidency also, had Baroda was a separate princely state within the Bombay. So Bombay had almost 200 princely states, what we call as the Gujarat states and the Deccan states, and also Baroda. Okay, so it was a very complex state actually. So here you get some understanding of those. And here on close by, we have the Punjab. We had some lot of princely states broadly put under what is called PEPSU, Patiala and East Punjab State Union. Okay. So this is the map. This map we digitized, we mapped, noted every part of these things. And then these things gives you the changes that happened over the time. So I strongly urge you to explore these things. We don't have time to go through all of them. And also a few things, along with the changes, there are also tables of the area if you wish to explore. So look at it. Okay. So the population and area, this is as per 1931. Okay. So total number of districts, total area, average population. So you can explore all these things through this. Okay. Okay. So, and we also have dashboards. I would strongly urge you, there is this district dashboard. Okay. The first dashboard is going to tell you about how the district evolved from 41 to 51. So I will just give you, let's say, Bombay to give an example. So this is what we call as an alluvial chart. So you can see district from every decade from 1872 to 1941. All the changes that have happened over time. Okay, is mapped. So also in this range, let's say Punjab. So Punjab changes, if you are interested, you can go through. Okay. So this is one thing, and this part I would want to emphasize this integration of princely state, because that is where the maximum changes in the districts actually happen during this time. Okay. So here what you see is I have chosen the Bombay as of 1951. Okay. So these are the districts, let's say Banaskantha, Sabarkantha, Panchmahal, Belgaum, uh, Dharwar, Pune was also part of it, and also let's say Sangli and all. Okay, so if you look at Surat, it had Surat, Bansra, Navsari, and Dharmapur. Okay, so Bijapur had not only it was a British district, but it also had parts of princely state. Okay, this is also important to know. The British districts had princely states scattered in between them. It was like enclaves. Okay. So now when you form a new district, you have to de-enclave it, and that means merge it with the main district. Okay. So when you closely observe the map, you are going to see this process that like you have to merge both the British and the princely state and consolidate into new parts. But a single princely state had fragments in multiple districts. Okay. So it was a major exercise that India did, post colon, after independence. Okay. So this is the 1941. So I strongly urge you to explore this. Okay. And this is the 1951 to 2024. Okay. So here you can choose any state in the present day, let's say Delhi. So Delhi had a single state. After 92, suddenly all these districts actually form. Okay. And Nagaland, I don't know. So whatever if you want. Okay. So it started with only 2 districts, and so look at how it changed. After it attained statehood within a decade, the Nagaland starts dividing its district. Okay. And then this is the fate. Yeah. Along with that, you also have you can filter by the new districts. Okay. This is West Bengal. So for example, sorry, it is Alipuram what do you call it? Alipurduar, it came from Jalpaiguri. Kalimpong, it came from Darjeeling. Okay. So if you click on any of these things, you will see the year of its formation and all, right? So sorry, it is vibrating a bit. So this is district split. So Paschimi Medinipur, it was like it was split into Jargram and Paschimi Medipur. Okay. So along with districts splits, we also have large scale renaming. I think the most familiar one, this Allahabad renamed to Prayagraj, and then let's say Osmanabad renamed to Dharashiv, and all this changes are happening. So in this one chart, you are going to see the renaming of all the states across all decades. The full name changes, okay, in a single chart. You can Hapur. Hapur was previously named as Panchashil Nagar. Okay, it is a full change. Okay. So this is the dashboard. I will quickly go through the rest. Okay. So this is a snapshot of those administrative evolution. Okay. So this is what I was talking about the integration. If you just look at the map 41 to 51, they look drastically different. As the much of the fragmentation that existed in 41 was consolidated by 51. Okay. And it is important to see. So when the new states were formed, 47 to 50, after the integration of India, there were a lot of agreements called merger agreement. So there we had to decide, so what will happen to this princely states? Some went into form what is called as a Part A states. They merged with the existing British provinces, which already had an district administration, tehsil, district and tehsil level administrative. So well-defined structure. Okay. So in that way, they were assimilated, like Sangli, Miraj, and also many of the Gujarat states. So they were assimilated in the Bombay province. Okay. So 216 went into Part A provinces. But there are many other, for example, all the Rajasthan district except Ajmer Marwara. So they were all only princely state. Entire Kathiawar was a princely states. Collection of princely states. Okay. So even Pepsu, collection of princely states. So all these things went and formed Part B states. Note that since there was such degree of fragmentation, so the administrative setup was quite different from the British. Okay, except maybe like Mysore and Baroda, which had well-defined administrative structure. The districts of this Part B states, like suddenly you have to appoint a, let's say, civil service. There was no civil service in half of these places. Okay, so but whatever the Maharaja used to employ, some of them were trained, retrained. VP Menon has a very interesting chapter on administrative and financial consolidation, and what he mentions is the major challenge is creating new administrative units, staffing them properly, and then creating a uniform taxation system. All these things are a very different taxation system. So octroi tax used to be there. Even if you go from one part of the Kathiawar to another part, like you have to pay octroi tax as you cross the border. They had to be annulled. And then income tax was very different. Like property tax were different. Land records were different. So understanding this era is crucial because at this phase, we created 4 different parts, and then especially Part B states and Part C states, we had to create an entirely new administrative structure. For example, Manipur had its own, Tripura had its own. Okay. Northeastern frontier area, which essentially became Arunachal Pradesh, no census was conducted till 1961. Okay. They had no district. And now Arunachal Pradesh has so many districts and sub-districts. Okay. So the bigger question for public administration is, since there is such a like historical baggage to these districts, so have we actually created a much more homogeneous administrative system? So to give an example, let's say even in Gujarat, Kutch was a Part C state, Kathiawar was Part B, and Banaskantha, Revakantha, like Mehsana, Ahmedabad, they were all Part A states. So now, is the administrative setup similar across? Have we actually annulled the past historical factors? That is some question we need to think about. Okay, so now we'll come to the district administration evolution in the Indian Republic. So broadly, there are three to four ways in which new districts are created. So one is you just take a part of the old districts and create a new district. Okay, and another is you create a new district by taking let's say sub districts of the old districts. Like let's say a, a child district can have one parent or two parent or sometimes three parents also. Okay, and occasionally you can have two or three districts actually merging to form a single one. This didn't happen much after 1950s, but it happened a lot between 1947 to 50. Maximum number of mergers you can see only during that time. After that, you don't. So broader question that comes up with is, are the new daughter or child districts, are they different from the original one? So to give an example, Hyderabad was split from the Rangareddy and Bangalore urban was split from the Bangalore district. But both Hyderabad and Bangalore are urban, right? And Bangalore rural is largely rural, but now it is also urbanized so much. And Rangareddy is also rural. In that way, the daughter districts may be very different from the parent district. So in that way, just a division of the population will not tell you the full demographics of this. Okay, and carve outs, if you look at it, then it will be a mixture of the multiple districts. Then it will inherit characteristics. Sometimes you may also have districts like demographically also. Let's say if you look at Pune, if there is a plan to divide it, I don't know when it will happen. Rural part, there are parts which are very tribal. So in that way, so district split can create a very heterogeneous group across and more homogeneous within. Okay, so then the question is whether this is really useful. Does it really help in administration or not? Or sometimes when it is purely carved out randomly, there may not be any administrative logic behind it. Okay, so this is an alluvial chart just to give a glimpse of how these things happened. So 1951 to 2011, this is Punjab. You will see this random transformations, mixing and matching here and there. So how new districts are actually formed. The red is the new district. The pink is actually the I don't know, cream color. What do you call it? It is the old district. And then there are only one merger, that you see, and there are few renaming. So we have created this district charts, district evolution chart for every state, and you can explore this transition. It's also a good exercise for a child to trace back the history of a district, right? So, okay. So now we have this broader characterization of the district changes. Note that what our work is largely a 30,000 feet view of the district changes that we have seen. Okay, we are not gone into the granular detail barring few. So in that way, we are seeing at the top macro level how districts have changed over time. Okay, so here we do find some patterns. In the initial period, 1950s to 70s. The rate, so we were more engrossed in making linguistic reorganization, making sense of the new states. We don't see much. And later, after 90s, there was a wave of actually district changes. Okay, these two charts, unfortunately, you're not able to see. The screen is small. It tells you one is the changes in the district at national level, and another at the state level. If you closely examine, you are going to see patterns of sudden changes that some states actually do. Okay, so so this is just a set of articles. Okay, and this I already explained it to you. This district dashboards. Okay, so where you can explore and trace these things. Okay. And for more recent districts, you should go to this website, IGOD, Integrated Government Online Directory, which keeps tracks of districts and sub-districts. Okay, so we scrape the data from here and we have created this web page for district tracking. Okay, some patterns as I wanted to showcase. So as I said, in the initial period, so 51 to 71, it was largely about the states and very less about the districts. Don't worry too much about what is there. If I can share the slides with you, you can see the actual numbers. Okay, so it was slow phase, but 1971 to 2001, we had district expansion from 357 to 593. That's a huge. And major expansion actually happened between 1991 to 2001. In a single decade, almost 123 districts was created. So Delhi, the moment it got an legislative assembly, within few days from 1 to 9 districts. Okay. Same with, many states, before the bifurcation of Madhya Pradesh and also Jharkhand. So Bihar and MP both split the districts a lot. Okay. And after the split also, let's say Chhattisgarh expanded the districts a lot. Okay. So even more recently, especially 2011 onwards, 2011 to 21, 90 district splits happened. 103 new districts were created. People don't even count. So if you look at the map, people still use 2011 maps. But so, for example, Gujarat had maybe around 11 new districts. Telangana, just a year after its formation, 2000. So number of districts were increased from 11 to 33, 33 or 34, so 3 times. Andhra Pradesh, just 2023, it increased the districts from 11 to 22. Okay. So there is rapid changes that happen, and what we have tried to do is in this table, you're not able to read it properly, but this table tracks the decadal changes in the districts and number of splits and carve outs. Okay, because as I said, a single district, a new district that is created may have a single parent or a multiple parents. Okay, so if it is a single parent, there is a single split. If there is multiple parent, there are multiple splits. Okay, and along with that splits, we also have enormous number of name changes that have happened. Okay, so maybe I'll come to it soon. Okay, so we recorded almost around 129 name changes over the period. Okay, so almost new districts, almost 36, I know, new district formed by splits around 462. Okay, so if you may ask one more question, how many districts did not change? That is also a question that's interesting. That means that have remained same. For Pune as a district, except for some Bor state integration, remained same since the colonial time. Okay, even after 1950, UP also you will find some districts which have never changed. Okay, we carefully track those things. Around 1/3 of the districts did not change. 2/3 changed. It varies from some state to state. We have a detailed record of all these things. In some states, for example, Telangana, every district changed. Okay. Some union territories district did not change. Andaman and not Andaman. I think Puducherry, the 4 districts have remained. I think later they reclubbed into 2. Okay. But largely, many of the union territories have remained intact. But overall, you do see statewide variation. There is some choosing to divide very rapidly, some choosing to retain it. Okay, so and then we also try to look at the drivers of the district creation. There are few major drivers. One major driver is the state formation and also getting a statehood. Okay, so after linguistic reorganization of the state, maybe there was first decade there was silence, not many districts were created. After 60s, you start seeing all this Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, they start creating new and new districts. So Nagaland attained statehood in 1963, I guess. Yeah. So a decade later, it starts splitting. Okay. And Goa in 1987, it attained statehood. Immediately, it starts splitting. And then Arunachal Pradesh, it largely stable. After attaining statehood, it changes. Okay. So here, this table, I wish I had a visualization of it. So this tracks the number of years after the reorganization, like, on which the districts starts multiplying. And also the ratio of the new district to the old districts. Okay. So many states, let's say Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Assam has tripled in 2 decades, tripled the number of districts in 2 decades. Okay. So, and then we try to explore this reason. So the common reason the government gives is administrative purpose, like, administrative convenience and also improving the governance. It's like standard gazette notification. Okay. But there are multiple factors. If you actually talk to people, bureaucrats who are involved in the district creation, so you talk to them, what happened behind the thing. So usually they say that it comes from some politician with some agenda, either as an electoral promise, or some political leverage, that some of the ministers actually wanted. So they are not able to come open and then name these people, but we interviewed several of them. So big picture was this: both one for creation of districts and also for not creating a districts. There are some districts, as I said, Kutch, which is supposed to be divided. Kutch was the old princely state. It is really huge. People can't travel across the ends. And even, let's say, Pune also is very hilly on one part and plain on the other. So Pune has large rural part and also large urban part. There has been a long demand for district split. But because Baramati was Pawar's um, stronghold, and they didn't, and the constituency, if you look at it, it spans across rural and the urban part. Okay, the Baramati constituency. So they wouldn't let this district to be divided. So in the same way, there are several cases where you see the politicians resisting district creation, even in Himachal Pradesh, for example. Himachal Pradesh has remained stable for decade. Okay, maybe I have somewhere. Maybe I'll talk about it later. So this is something it needs deeper investigation. It only bureaucrats can show talk about it in detail. For the public, what we get in public domain in newspapers is that, okay, notification, this is, and then these new districts are created for this. Take it. And then renaming is also very important. It's a cultural politics. Okay. So one is after, British time, most of the British districts, they had their own name. Madras, Bangalore, Pune. Okay. So after independence, they wanted to nativize these things. So Madras became Chennai, Bombay became Mumbai. This is very well known, right? Um, uh, Nativize Bangalore became Bengaluru. Okay. But few full name changes also happened. Nellore became Sri Putti Sriramulu, the person who actually fasted unto death for the Telangana state, Andhra state formation, right? And Allahabad for into Prayagraj. I don't want to get into the reason of it. Okay, Prayagraj. Trivandrum became, some nativization happened. Trivandrum became Thiruvananthapuram. Belgaum becomes Belgavi. Bijapur becomes Bijapura. So nativization happens. Okay. Sometimes suffix and North Canara becomes only Canara, or something. So there are different classification that we have done. Okay. So about the district changes, and we have a full table of this. And also few things we have noted. Let's say whenever a party is in power in UP, like when Samajwadi Party was there, they renamed many districts. When Mayawati came, they renamed those old districts into something else. So this SP, BSP, and now the BJP. So you see different ways of renaming. Okay, so we have a chart. If you can explore this, which gives you the name changes of every state by every decade. Okay, you can click on it, and then you can get the name changes. So because of the small screen, you're not able to read it, but I urge you to go to the website wherein you can click on these things and get the name changes everywhere. Okay, so now I have, okay, 11:40. I still have some time. Okay. So now broadly, what is the consequences of the district creation? So this is something, this is where the research questions come in. So the broader claim is administrative convenience that we'll try to explore later, and development. It leads to better development. Okay, we'll try to explore that later. But it also imposes a lot of costs. Okay, there are very little documentation on the cost of new district creation. But you know that a new district is created, then you have to have district collector's office, district court, Zilla Parishads have to be established, district hospital, because many of the even health system is organized at the district level. Okay, department officers, you have to create new stuff. Already India, if you look at overall state is not hiring. I think there is a famous paper by Devesh Kapoor and wherein he talks about how the number of public employees per thousand is actually declining in India. Okay, but still you need more staffing. Okay, and average, there is an estimate from recent study in like Rajasthan. It says around 500 to 1,500 crore per district is needed. Okay. So on the entire Rajasthan restructuring, they try to increase from 33 districts to 53 districts. It's estimated around 20,000 crore. Okay. So now many of the districts in those places were naam ke vaste district or namesake district, because new offices were not set up, staff is not there, they were working in makeshift camp, buildings. Many of the people used to go back to the original parent district. It is very easy to announce it on paper, it's very hard to build an administrative structure for the districts. Okay. So and there is also duplication of records, there is weak capacity to create this new district offices. And often the bureaucrats who are involved in it, they show that they talk about overload and governance strain. So you want to create, they have to look at how do you create, decide these boundaries at what level, and then every record in the government has to be updated, because ये boundary इसमें चला गया, ये इसमें चला गया. So then you have to have a whole process of actually updating of the government doc. Census, that district census gives you this district census handbooks. So now it's 15 years since the last census was held. So many of the new districts, almost 130 districts don't have a district census handbook. Okay, collectors have it, but no new districts wouldn't have it. Even for the old districts which have been split, so the records are not accurate because part of it has already been gone to create a new district. So that challenge is there. Okay. And other thing which we focus primarily on is also like you are creating new district, but doesn't mean that you're also undermining the grassroots local governance. Okay. Because in a district, usually imagine a district with both urban and rural area. You have many panchayats, gram panchayat, taluk panchayat, zilla parishad, and also at urban level there is municipal corporation, nagar parishad, and all those things, right? Urban and rural local bodies. So now a district collectorate office is an agent of the state. So now usually they take over in most of the decision making, right? For example, during the COVID, in many of the districts in Maharashtra, it was the district collector who was announced. So very little autonomy was there for the local government officials to take any decisions. In that way, this is, at least what we say is that it is not truly a decentralization as such, right? It is much more of a decongestion. Yeah, so that is why, this leads to the last few questions that I want to end with. Okay, maybe I'll take around 5 to 7 minutes, and also 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so some of which is we already talked about. The broader question about the politics and federal design. Okay, and also comparison. Okay, so now India was part, like, in the 1950s, many new countries were formed. Okay, including our own neighbor Pakistan, which later also had Bangladesh. So if you look at Pakistan, you don't see that much of district changes. Bangladesh, it did change. Bangladesh was formed by a single province. Okay, Bangladesh. So many other states, let's say Vietnam. So instead of splitting, they have consolidated the districts. So, and many other, let's say, federations like Germany, they are not doing it. So is there something unique about India? So why India is proliferating the districts so frequently? US, if you look at the map of US, you will see that district maps largely remaining same, whereas Indian maps, changes frequently. Okay? So why do Indian district proliferate so rapidly compared to other federations? Okay, so what Shamindra was telling, that maybe it is a unique federal design which is in our constitution which makes it. So for example, even state division is so easy to do in India because Article 2 empowers the union government to split, enlarge, shrink a state. Okay, and without needing the state's approval. In the union has the exclusive power to split the, create new states. In the same way, states have the exclusive power without the consultation of the local people to create new districts. Okay, maybe it's a, it's in our federal design. Okay, and also international comparison. If people can compare post-colonial countries after 1950s and then see whether new districts, what is the administrative proliferation is the broader term, across all these. Okay. China, for example, it did have many provinces, but it doesn't have so many divisions like India. Okay. So note that China, even though the effective districts are much bigger than India, it is much more decentralized. Almost 53% workers in China are from the local government, whereas in India it's only around 3%. In that way, China, without dividing further, is far more decentralized. So there are many books written on those things. Okay. Okay. So other question is about cross-state variation. Now coming from broader state, why some states are more eager to divide than others? Why Telangana split into, created so many, whereas Himachal Pradesh, where there was a need, didn't split. Okay. And Kerala also has remained largely same. Why is it so? After the initial wave of district creation, I don't know. Okay. Here there are detailed table of how some states proliferated the districts. So the question is why? Okay. So that not many much of literature is there. Okay. So this is a comparison. Okay. So this is a comparison of Himachal Pradesh and Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland. Both are, all these three are hilly states. Na? Just look at the way the districts are created. So Himachal Pradesh after 71, you don't see any change. Arunachal Pradesh, multiple waves. Arunachal Pradesh is so small, in terms of population, area wise, it's big. Okay. So imagine a district of 10,000 people. If it is further divided, it becomes, let's say, 3,000, 7,000 or something like this. That's even smaller. Nagaland, it also went through multiple waves. Assam recently reorganized so many districts. It's very hard to get the new shape files of this. It's hard for us to track these things. Ever since we started the project, and then at this stage, so many new changes have happened. So some people were complaining that, array, ye kya hai? Like, abhi jo district say this looks different from what you have in your website. Array, what do we do? It has changed. So that's why we have to create this new district tracker. But even in the district tracker, we cannot get the this one, what do you call, shape files, easily. Okay. And also there is a lack of communication from the state to the center. Survey of India does not have the updated information from the states. Okay. We don't easily get those. Only during the census, I think you have to freeze the boundaries. I think maybe 6 or 8 months before the census. I hope state stops recreating districts by that time or renaming districts by that time. Okay. And other for people in sociology, I don't know, so anthropology or culture, people who study culture, like, you have to understand about the loss of culture, like, when you rename it, sometimes hundreds of years of legacy is suddenly changed by a renaming. One politician's whim, a new district is actually renamed. So there is a loss of culture. And there is also a administrative cost of renaming. The UN General Assembly, like there is a convention on the renaming or like naming of the administrative units. But India doesn't actually follow that. India hadn't attended many of these meetings. So the problem at the national level and international is, imagine districts have been renamed. It is not reflected in international boundaries. So globally, they have to update the India maps frequently. India at every level, they have to update the maps. Streets, the nameplates have to be updated. So it is a bureaucratic nightmare when new districts are renamed. Okay. And for researchers, it is crazy, like, because we have to track those districts, especially for those, who are trying to do it across longer time periods, because it changes so frequently, like you have to keep track of all those things. Okay. Okay. So now comes to, a bigger question. Does the creation of district actually impact the development? Does it improve? Okay. So there are very few papers on these things. I know I found this Deepak Malgan and Josna Rajan. He's at IMA. So does it creating new district improve developmental outcome? Okay. So how do you test these things? Okay. So one way they do is, using the night light, okay, satellite map. So whether the effective light intensity has increased substantially over time in the split districts versus unsplit districts. A relative comparison of these can give you some idea about it. Okay. But what they say is that, okay, on an average, there is an increased activity post a district bifurcation. After that, on an average, it stabilizes. That's what they say. But many more studies are required to understand this better. Okay. And I'm sure it varies a lot by the context. Some places it may not help much, but some places it may help. Okay. So, and also, does it creation enhance any economic growth? It was what they found is there was no big difference in the economic growth in the district after the splitting. Okay, that is what this paper is. But we definitely need more research on this. Okay. Okay. So does India compare with? Okay. This is about the cross comparison. And other thing is about the question of decentralization. Okay. So other thing is, the broader claim is decentralization. As I already said, this is much more of a delegation and deconcentration than a devolution. Devolution requires, empowering the local government. They should be able to have their own taxation system. Okay. So the creation of a new district offices primarily gives you more state government officials landed in this. If you have seen the series Panchayat, there you will see that how the Panchayat officer, he is a link between the Sarpanch and the district officer. So they are at the command of the district officer. So in that way, creating more district doesn't necessarily mean devolution or improved governance. Okay, but much more needs to be studied. At least detailed case studies of few districts which have been split in the recent times, and especially in states like Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, which have done it on a large scale. Okay. Other thing I didn't include in this is also about the overlap of the boundaries, administrative and political boundaries. So usually, so within a assembly constituencies, they are frozen over time. You see that political constituencies are stable in India because 1971 freeze, 1976 after that act, right? The parliamentary constituencies have not changed. Okay, assembly constituencies have also largely remained the same. On the other hand, districts have increased. So now there is a question about what is the relationship between administrative proliferation versus the political boundaries remaining stagnant. This also leads to the question of delimitation. So in most states, a new district is created in a way such that the assembly constituencies still remain within a same district. Okay, not everywhere, but in most states. Okay. In Telangana, what she found it is that in a single assembly constituencies now can overlap with multiple districts. Like what are the outcomes of these things? This is also something we need to look at. Okay. So this question comes, and last one, what I want to say is for researcher like us, if we want to study over a long period of time, stitching the district boundaries becomes challenging. Okay, so let's say what we are given is the cartography of the district change. So now let's say there's an example of under 5 mortality study, like National Family Health Survey actually captures this child mortality. Okay, but NFHS has been happening 1992, 99, 2005, 2015, 20. There are 5 or 6 rounds. 6th round is actually happening now. So now number of districts have changed a lot. So if you want to understand U5MR change, under 5 mortality rate change over this last 30 years period at the district level, how are you going to do? Okay, how do you stitch back the current district boundary to the back? Okay, so that is a challenge because population splits, you may not be available. Even if the population is split, as I said, to take an example of Hyderabad and Rangareddy, the daughter districts may not be similar to the parent districts. It's a challenge. So now they have to come up with various other means like, using a grid of few degrees and then some interpolation method. Okay. This is a study on the global burden of state. This is GBD study, if you are familiar with the public health literature. So it is also critiqued heavily for its interpolation methods. Not everything is grounded on data because they want to create a very fine granular data set, but we don't have granular level data. Okay, and then it comes under criticism for many of these reasons. So I think these are the questions which I want people to explore. What we are given is only the bird's eye view, a skeleton of the changes. So it is for others who have to look at, zoom in, or even for us to zoom in further and to examine many of these questions. Okay, so as I said, this work started long back around 2022. So many people, especially Meher Kalra, like who is at the bottom, she was part of this. Okay, so there are team of research assistants, designers who were part of this. More recently we have Gaurav and Madhav who have been working with me, and then Megha who has been the designer, and few students were also involved. Shruti, Mimansa, Kriti, Umesh helped us in a lot of creating the state stories and mapping of many of this data set. And we had this two designers, Nitya, Subramanyam and Sai. Nitya is also part of the design team for CPR, I guess. Okay. And we also got immense support from our earlier chair, Maya Dod. Okay. With this, I would like to end. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva. This okay? This mic? Yeah, I don't think it's working. It's working? Okay. I don't get it. Yeah, so thanks much. I mean, you probably created subject matters of a few PhDs in your talk. And very interesting things. I mean, we in CPR also like worked with along with a colleague Kanu, who's probably there online, on this creation of panels of districts, villages, and sub districts over time. And we every time we walked through this, we have come together to these issues. And the most interesting thing is we always have wild claims about temporal comparison, population composition, which hardly takes care of these kinds of changes that needs to be adjusted. And all these interesting point that you have said, that there is a discontinuity of single and multiple parent districts. One is to really see that when a multiple parent districts creates, you take some blocks from one district and some blocks from another district and create a new synthetic district. Why such changes have been happening more over time? Is there a demand below the district level to do that? Because for the simple administrative purpose of the government, take along counting and for even to put together records of revenues, put together records of schemes, it's a nightmare. So why a government choose to do such kind of things more than ever? uh, this needs like interesting qualitative, there's a scope for interesting qualitative studies as well to look at these kinds of stuff, if we find any kinds of patterning or so. The second most interesting question that I found is, this question on the political representation story in relation to district creation. So that you found. I mean, I find it an incredibly under-researched area that, when we create new districts, how is going to affect the creation of our assembly constituencies, because assembly constituencies cannot cross districts. They are contained within districts. So if we have more districts, how do we manage creation of new assembly constituency boundaries? One needs to check that sort of thing. So Telangana, it has created so many new districts. How it will show up in the political map of Telangana, given there is a limit of creation of those? When we'll have the next delimitation? This is also an interesting question, that why some district doesn't change boundaries, what kind of institutional factors that are there. Uh, does it have anything to do with urbanization, industrialization, lobbies within that? Honestly speaking, these political economic questions we have had a lot at much more local level. We had why new urban areas are created and so on and so forth. But we need to also see that what drives the identity at the district level. I mean, this is much before the fact that districts as a macro identity. It's been seen. It's more of an administrative configuration. But again, administratively stable districts, what drives that kind of factors, is an interesting question. The other interesting question you pointed out, your concept on local delimitation. I mean, local delimitation is a concept less studied, even less studied in India. There are cities, a corporation, large corporation, who spans around multiple districts. Srinagar, say for example, and say Siliguri in Bengal, for example. Those kinds of so when one district is created across multiple, one city is created across multiple districts, a district reconfiguration, how it going to impact the governance of the city and the local delimitation? That's one question. And the final interesting point that you pointed out, the challenges on data, right? I mean, there are immense debates. Like this is an interesting nightlight stuff that you have shown, wide confidence interval though. But the point being that, even how do I calculate per capita nightlight when a new district is created? Per capita, I need population. I don't have population. And first thing hits my mind. And, so coming back to this question, that then when we have these annual surveys that are going on, like we have NFHS not really annual, but quite high frequency, and then you have PLFS. And every time you start working with those data sets, you find out that every round has some new districts. Now, what is the base population of that? Because how do the estimates being drawn? We have interesting work on like how one village has maneuvered India's workforce participation in Assam. Pramit Bhattacharya, he wrote in this India district India data portal or somewhere. A fascinating piece. So this is interesting that how even within the government these kinds of conversation happen when preparation of temporally comparable data, and we often compare survey outcomes over time. We don't spatially drill them at that level, but samples are drawn at district level, as most cases, as primary sampling units. So how those changes affect the outcomes in the survey. And even for when we try to match across data sets done right nowadays, like people want to put together data sets. There is this platform called NADP, National Data Platform by NITI. What they did was they take this NFHS, NSS, and they create district level estimates and make available over time. But when someone looks at you, what you have said, that this cannot be done in a methodologically neat way unless you have a very good base frame and population of a district that is available. You need to share those numbers as that. So that remains a challenge for temporally comparable data creation. And at the end of the day, all these studies, if I have to investigate a seriously important hypothesis, that administrative proliferation, how it affects development, I also need first the data to be quite matched to that. Without that, it's a hard game. So, I mean, these are some of the interesting pointers that this throws up, and I'm sure there people would be walking around it. But I would like to see that if you have questions online or anything, or anyone asks, Vanshika, if you can unmute people if they want to ask questions, or sure. And I'm not joined to the panelists, so yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So, here, if anyone I want to ask any questions, we can.
Start. I'm going to run away for the faculty meeting.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Shivakumar. Very informative, I must say, your presentation, and very useful for the young researchers who are working in this field. I'm sorry I came late. I have a question about something that you may have talked about in the beginning. We know the logic of creating states was along linguistic boundaries. What was the logic of creating districts when they were created? I think it must be in the colonial period when the states were coming, or states had districts. Were they reinforced or accepted in the colonial governance, or new districts were created? So whether you address this question or not. So that's first question. Second, of course, is all about what drives district creation. You have so much information. Have you tried to create an analytical framework with various drivers? For example, it's political, administrative, cultural, linguistic, quest for identity, autonomy, all kinds of things. So if you put districts, subdivision and factors behind it, because you have all the information, and then come to some kind of generalization or a theoretical framework. Have you tried that? No, you could do that. All right. So third is, of course, what all we are talking about is, what does it mean once a district is created politically, governance-wise, decentralization-wise, and development outcomes, economic outcomes? So is there a study which looks at size of the district and outcomes along all these parameters? So these are my
Size of
three,
district.
size of the district and developmental outcomes, political outcomes. What is the third one? Economic development outcome, 3. So if there is a study, I would be very happy to know about it. Thank you.
Yeah. So, do we take more questions or?
Yeah, we can take a step. Go ahead.
Mike, here.
मान्यवर, सबसे पहले मुझे आपका धन्यवाद करना चाहिए। ये इतना अच्छा आपने जो लेक्चर दिया है जिसमें ऑलमोस्ट सब कुछ कवर किया है, कुछ छुपाने की कोशिश नहीं की। पहले मैं डर रहा था, अंत में आपने वो भी कह दिया जो आपने नहीं।
बहुत सारी चीज हमने नहीं किया है।
आपने कुछ भी नहीं छुपाया। नॉर्मली लोग पॉलिटिशियन से डरते हैं, लेकिन आपने उनको भी नंगा किया। तो आई मीन दिस इज समथिंग यूनिक, वेरी यूनिक अबाउट अ स्पीकर। लेट मी टेल यू दैट मेरा अपना एक्सपीरियंस, आई एम अ डिबेटर, आई एम स्टूडेंट कंपैरेटिव स्टडीज इन एवोल्यूशन ऑफ हिस्ट्रीज एंड आई एम अ डिबेटर। तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा, बहुत अच्छा। मेरे पास कुछ इसमें पॉइंट रह गए हैं जो मैं आपके ध्यान में लाना चाहता हूँ। पहले आपने बताया कि कई चीजें आपने बताया कि ब्रिटिश टाइम में ये एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव पर्पसेस के लिए किया जाता था। 47 ऑनवर्ड्स जो डेवलपमेंट हुई है उसमें एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव, यस ऑफ कोर्स एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव प्लस पॉलिटिकल नेसेसिटीज उसमें और ऐड अप हो गई, और उसकी वजह से ये वेरी डाइवर्स हो गया, ये डाइवर्स हुआ। एक जगह आप मेंशन करते हैं कि एक स्टेट में 11 डिस्ट्रिक्ट थे, वो 33 हो गए, एक में 11 वो 22 हो गए, 3 टाइम्स। तो आप देखिए ये क्या होगा, ये ब्रिटिश टाइम में नहीं होता, ऐसा नहीं होता। अच्छा, मैं इसीलिए कहा ये एक बेस बना है आपको आगे बढ़ने के लिए, मेरे को आगे बढ़ने के लिए बेस बना है। इसमें कुछ चीजें आपने नहीं बताई। एक आपने बहुत अच्छी बात बताई, केरला और एचपी में ऑलमोस्ट डिस्ट्रिक्ट में चेंज नहीं आया, जबकि असम और तेलंगाना में आया। इफ यू अलाउ मी टू से ऑन दैट प्लीज। केरला में इसलिए क्योंकि वहां पर लेफ्ट शुरू से रहा, उनको डिस्ट्रिक्ट चेंज की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती। क्यों? इट सूट्स देयर पॉलिटिकल पर्पस, राइट? आई थिंक सेम इज विद द एचपी बिकॉज इज हिंदू स्टेट, राइट? देन यू कम असम। असम की नेसेसिटी जो हुई है कि एक्सप्लोर किया इसने डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में, वो किया बिकॉज कमिंग ऑफ द बांग्लादेशीज, और उनको डिस्ट्रिक्ट को उसको मैनेज करने के लिए ना उन्होंने उनको बांटा है। उनके वोट अगर एक जगह रह जाएंगे तो वो एक अपने लोग खड़े कर देंगे वहां पर। सो दिस इज बिकॉज ऑफ दैट। इज सेम इज तेलंगाना। तेलंगाना का जो मैं जानता हूँ, इट्स ए नक्सलाइट इन्फेस्टेड प्लेस, राइट? तो उसमें पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी का भी नहीं, और उनका जो गढ़ है ना, उसको तोड़ने के लिए उन्होंने इसको बार बार काटा पीटा है। ये दिस इज समथिंग ना। अनदर थिंग सर, नागालैंड, मणिपुर, मिजोरम, जे&के, इसके ऊपर आपने कुछ प्रकाश नहीं डाला है। मैं चाहूंगा कि आप जे&के, ये दे आर यूनिक प्लेसेस, राइट? ये स्टेट जो है ना, इनकी अलग ही स्ट्रक्चर है, इंडिया से बिल्कुल अलग है। ये कौन कौन सा? जे&के फॉर एग्जाम्पल, नागालैंड, मणिपुर एंड मिजोरम अगेन। इसके ऊपर आपने कुछ ये डिस्ट्रिक्ट के बारे में विस्तार से कुछ नहीं कहा है। मेरा अपना ओपिनियन है, मैं जानता हूं, लेकिन मैं चाहूंगा कि उसको भी इनकॉर्पोरेट आप उसको करना चाहिए था। ये तो रहा था। लेकिन ये एक आपने अच्छी बात कही, तो जो इंडिया में जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट के ऊपर जो हो रहा है ना, जो वाद विवाद हो रहा है, ये इट इज ऑल बिकॉज जो भी पॉलिटिकल चेंज होती है, जब भी होगी फ्यूचर में भी जब भी होगी, मैं अब पीछे की बात कर रहा हूँ, इन फ्यूचर इवन फ्यूचरिस्टिक व्यू भी होना चाहिए। जब भी पॉलिटिकल चेंज ओवर होगा, डिस्ट्रिक्ट चेंज ओवर होंगे, बिकॉज इट डजंट सूट देम। उनको अपने जो वोट बैंक है ना, इट इज ए वोट बैंक फाइट, वो अपनी वोट बैंक को अपने कंसोलिडेट करती है।
Sir, if you have any questions.
Oh, sorry, sir.
No, we have a bunch of questions.
थैंक यू सर। अब मैं चाहूंगा कि आप जाते जाते ये नागालैंड, मणिपुर, मिजोरम वन ब्लॉक एंड जे&के अनदर ब्लॉक, इसके ऊपर थोड़ा प्रकाश डाले तो बहुत मेहरबानी होगी। बाकी जो मैंने कहना है, इट इज ऑल बिकॉज ऑफ पॉलिटिकल, आई मीन वोट बैंक गेम। सॉरी।
Sure, no issues. Anyone else? All of you young minds. Yeah, go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
There are some districts which share area across state. So like Chitrakoot in Uttar Pradesh, it has some area in Madhya Pradesh. So will we see that in your data? But it's part of the Uttar Pradesh. So the districts falls in Uttar Pradesh, but
That's
the
very
area
interesting
falls
point.
into Madhya Pradesh. So will we also see that in your data set? That
Overlapping area.
In
Wow, very good.
enclave districts.
Enclave districts, it's very
Yeah.
important. Yes.
We have some questions online as well, but I think
Any one more question and then I will take. Actually, I will try to address
Yeah.
some of these.
Yeah.
So first of all, I think Shamindra, he already kind of summarized many of the things and opened up so many questions. I'm afraid I don't have answers to most of them. I think that is why I had the last 4 slides, which primarily for others to explore. Okay, first coming to you, ma'am. Okay, so colonial districts, if you look at as I understand, as and when the British conquered different parts of India, starting with Bengal, so you start seeing creation of district. So district becomes the fundamental units in which they try to understand India. So it is the collectors who are responsible for actually collecting, curating all information first about the land revenue by definition, like collectors were supposed to understand the land revenues. I mean, zamindari system and even education. It is the collectors who were taking reports of all this, conducting surveys on the indigenous education system in India, irrigation system. They were also involved in the mapping. So collector was a central figure in the colonial administration. So in that way, for them, creation of this district becomes very crucial, and appointing a collector becomes one of the prime aspect of the East India Company's administration. ठीक है, वो होता है. So, but along with that, so when the census starts by 1872.
Or earlier existing some sort of administrative boundary which must have been the old states, the princely states. And were there some superimposition of boundaries?
So let's say Mughal district like Suba and this one, okay, Zamindari, yeah. So that is something we have to, I haven't looked at it carefully. But one thing I know more from the Bombay presidency areas, see, there was an anarchy during the time of the annexation. So in that way, there was high degree of fragmentation in the West. Like, for example, like single Maratha empire had hundreds of smaller jamindari zagirdars. So essentially were made treaties with the British and they became fragmented land, So many, why do you see so many in Gujarat and Kathiawar and Deccan? So in that way, as soon as they didn't have this kind of small princes, they didn't have a concept of a district, okay? Because India was going through multiple wars between 1750s to 1800s, right? So it was a fragmented. That's why when you see the map, it is very fragmented. In the east, it is far more uniform, especially in Bengal and Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. That area you see more uniformity, but in the west, it is far more fragmented. Okay? So now when you create the district, one is the British provinces had their own districts with some enclaves of all these princely states. And princely state, they were largely left to administer themselves. They also call it princely district, but that is far more of what we call as a notional district. So like, notional district for collecting data, they were created, but doesn't mean that they had the same administrative level as the like the British districts. Okay. And other question that I think, sir, you also talked about is in the colonial time, there was a stability in the nation. In spite of this fragmentation, the number of districts, if you go and look at our thing, it was around 412 to 424. Maximum in a span of around 70 years, only 20 new districts were created effectively. Okay. So in that way, there was a high degree of stability during that time, even when there was a fragmentation. They said कि हाँ यार, थोड़ा बहुत minor changes चलेगा, but largely, they did retain the structure. Okay. So I don't know the core motivation for it. Provinces were changing a bit, partition of Bengal, annulment of partition of Bengal, Sindh was separated, and then Odisha became a state. But still, number of districts did not change that much. Okay. So, but you start seeing maximum changes after one is, we consolidate the district, and second is we start creating new states. With new states comes new energy, and they want to control their administration. They start splitting the district. Okay. Second question was also important. Political development. and whether there is a relation between the size of the district and developmental outcome. This I'm not sure, how to address it. This is something I think the Deepak Malagan has talked about it a bit. But even there are very few people which tries to correlate this. I have tried to look at as much as there is very little literature on this. So this Chinmay Tumbe had done some work in the 2000s, trying to look at average area per districts in different states and whether there was any development. I think it's mainly the Chinmay's paper which essentially addressed it in some detail. Okay. But what is broad conclusion, if I take it from his paper, is smaller districts on an average have done better in terms of the size in the area of the district. Okay. And other question that administrative purpose and political necessity, and then the specific cases that you took, Kerala and Himachal Pradesh. Kerala is definitely a communist state. Maybe since there was a stabilization in a two-party system, maybe the districts also stabilized. But I don't understand Himachal Pradesh, why they didn't divide. Himachal Pradesh is hilly and vast, So the collectors, when I talked to him, the former district administrator, he said that there are people and the locals, when they resist, the moment, like imagine one district is split into two. Since the population is low over there, the people in the old districts, they feel that their importance will come down.
I have connection with the Himachal. Somehow, both traditionalist हैं, वो आपको छेड़खानी पसंद नहीं करते.
Achha.
They want to remain as it is.
Oh, so they wanted to remain. That's what collector also said. Okay.
We have some questions online as well.
Achha, online bhi hai. Achha, okay, sure.
It's an excellent report.
Yeah, thank you.
They have a whole website, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's called indiastatestories.com.
Everything has been documented.
Everything has been documented. All the data sets are publicly.
Yeah, I will
No, no.
just share the presentation. Definitely.
But I just wanted to mention.
It's a reference material. It's extremely important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you want to answer his question.
JNK और नागालैंड का.
So Nagaland का इतना नहीं पता है. JNK एक है कि मतलब JNK had around 10 districts during the colonial time. For some reason, census atlas, the later census atlas, it wants to portray JNK as a single district, 1931-41. But when I actually go to the earlier records, it is multiple districts. Okay. So only later from 1960 onwards, the census atlas showing more and more districts. But as it is very well known, even in the 20s and the 30s, the state itself had divided JNK into 10 districts. Okay. But the Indian Union didn't want to acknowledge it after the independence, maybe. Okay.
Right.
So that is one thing.
You want to answer his
Chitrakoot, yeah. So this is a very interesting history. If you look at, these are enclaves, right? This also is related to the integration period. There are many fragments of, let's say, Rajasthan, which are part in the current Madhya Pradesh. The Madhya Bharat was the first unit that was created. They had, let's say, Gwalior had fragmented parts in UP, and UP had some parts in this. So there was an agreement that was done during the merger agreement when you're trying to consolidate and create a new state. Then they said that, okay, these enclaves will now be part of Rajasthan. These enclaves will now be part of Madhya Bharat, and this will be part of UP. Out of that, great degree of homogenization was achieved, but still not everything. This is a very interesting example where is this enclave also. Okay. So there are some district collector who says that to reach from one part of my district to another one, I have to pass through two other districts.
Two other districts different.
Same with Pepsi also, if you look at it. So you will see these cases. Punjab.
Also the case, these enclaves in North Bengal, in Kuch Bihar.
There was a land boundary agreement that had to be done. So only recently. So the villages were exchanged between the India and Bangladesh. So in that way, the old Kuch Bihar districts had parts in Bangladesh. And those people were essentially stateless. Because uske आजू बाजू बांग्लादेश है, वो लोग Indian citizen बोला जाता है, but they didn't have any services.
Right. Hence, again, international political implications. But we have some interesting questions online. The first. So yeah, we can take the hand raises first and then can answer. Yeah, Dr. Partho, Professor Vire, and Vikram K. Chand and Dr. Bhaskara Rao. They have raised their hands. So if you can unmute them one by one.
There are so many questions.
They'll have a whole lot of questions. Yeah, sir, you can ask a question.
Hi, Shivakumar, very nice presentation. Thank you. Uh, I was just curious about the idea of, in whenever you read history and you read sort of memoirs and structures, the notion of the British India district officer becomes a very big figure. And so you sort of wonder, what is it about this district officer that uh, makes that role strong as compared to, let's say, the standard district collector here, right? And you realize now that in some sense that the district officers most probably controlled both territory and population much larger than what
Is broken.
Hello. Yeah. His network's unstable. Yeah.
Maybe in between.
Yeah. Just ask him to leave his question and we can take the
Are
other.
there online questions?
Yeah, there are, but yeah. Vikram K. Chand, if you can ask your question, sir.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, wonderful. This was an outstanding presentation, and I congratulate you on your methodological brilliance and the way you and your team put this together. Basically, the question that I had was, the government of India and several state governments are now sort of trying to pull off a China in Indian districts, as you pointed out, and Yun Yunang and others have pointed out. Chinese districts are fairly well endowed in terms of human resources and budgets and relatively high levels of decentralization, especially the ones along the coast. And these have become engines of growth. So the hope was that if India could focus on its own districts with a view to enhancing growth in the districts, this would promote inclusive growth as well. And I know there's a project that Maharashtra has initiated on trying to promote fast growth in their districts. Of course, at the moment, just a few districts constitute most of India's GDP. So my question is, what is your sense? This rapid fragmentation that we've seen over 20 or 30 years, what does that do to growth rates at the district level? You've hinted that a small size is better for growth, but there's not much empirical basis to that. But what does this rapid pace do to the prospects for growth at the district level?
Do you want to take some questions together and answer?
Yeah.
So Professor Bhide has typed her questions. I can read that. But before that, Dr. Bhaskara Rao also had hands up. So if you can unmute him and we can. He left. Okay. If Dr. Partho is back, he can finish his questions, or else I'll just go to the. Sure. So yeah, so I'll just read out the questions that we got in online. So Professor Amita Bhide has some follow-up questions. The first question she has was, I see that cities like Mumbai comprise 2 districts, creating further complexities in terms of jurisdictions. Are there other cities of this kind? Siliguri and Srinagar are there. That too I know, but yeah, that's a question she has. And she has 2 follow-up questions. One is, why do you think that splitting of a district is largely due to political interests? Is it possible that a district has far too many divergences in terms of its population attributes? From your experience, can we draw principles for what should be the reasons for constitution of a district? And another question she has was, you talked of financial implications of district creation. What happens to resource distribution via schemes? Do all districts get an equal share? In short, does creation of more districts give state governments more leverage in asking for more resources from the center? We want to answer these, and then the next set of questions, there are already a few.
Yeah.
Sure.
So all these are pretty heavy questions. I don't claim to know the answers of this. So first, regarding Mr. Vikram's question. So in China's model, whatever district that they had great autonomy to raise their own revenues, pay the salaries for their staff. They could take a part of it. So they could be active, like players in the economic development of the state. So whereas the Indian districts, they are passive players, so they are still controlled by the state. So a true decentralization, if district themselves can be economic powerhouse, I think you need to actually devolve the uh, powers to raise revenue, like not only district, let's say even city governments and also the panchayats to raise the revenue, and also attract investment and also have a greater stay in the development within their own districts. Okay. So whereas China could do this by giving greater autonomy, here even though we are creating more district, but entire administrative setup, the rules, schemes are largely state government schemes or the central government schemes. So in practice, it doesn't make a difference. You're creating more agents of the state. That is my take. Okay, and then Professor.
Yeah, do you want me to read them once? More?
Yeah, quickly, the first part.
The first one was, I see that cities like Mumbai comprise 2 districts, creating further complexities in terms of jurisdictions. Are there other cities of this kind?
So cities themselves grow rapidly. Urban agglomeration usually overlap with many of the rural districts, for example. Like, so Bangalore itself, if you define the city limits, now Bangalore has encroached even the Bangalore South and Bangalore Ramnagara district also.
2 districts in Bangalore urban and Bangalore rural.
But
Similarly,
rural is also becoming urbanized.
Yeah, so these cities are multiple districts.
Multiple districts.
Srinagar,
so I think you
for
also
example,
talk about Srinagar and Siliguri, right?
Siliguri
so
also has 2 districts. The second question she has was more in-depth, that
In-depth.
why do you think that splitting of a district is largely due to political interests? Is it possible that a district has far too many divergences in terms of population attributes? From your experience, can we draw principles for what should be the reasons of the constitution for districts?
Yes, I think this is what we try to address in our wire article. Okay, so these questions, if you talk to people who are involved in the district creation, so one is some of the district creation may come from the local demand itself, that okay, we need the office to be close by. If the district is really large, there is a demand, and politician is trying to address some of those demand during the election campaigns. Okay, so and then it may result in a new district. But many a times it so happens is that creation of a district creates a privilege for the political actor to claim that देखो हम आपके लिए एक नया district बना दिया. Okay, so that is what the bureaucrats were telling, that many a times it is based upon, let's say, sometimes it may also be based upon separating the characteristics. Let's say some, I think in one of the district in Gujarat, so it was split because to separate the Kshatriyas and the tribal groups, overlapping. Okay, so there may be a deliberate attempt to create a district based upon some of these demographic characteristics, so as to suit some of them. And so the second part was
part on financial implications of district creation. What happens to resource distribution via schemes? Does new district creation give states more leverage for getting money from the center, or so and so forth?
The cost of district creation I've investigated, but I don't know much idea about whether they get the leverage for it. But I think Amita Bide ma'am also asked a very fundamental question: what should be the criteria for district creation? Right. Okay, this is something we wanted to end with. So at least like there is no agency for the players in the district whether they want the district to be divided or not. Okay, so there is no consultation with the local governments, neither panchayats, district commission. Before splitting of the district, there is no deliberative process that is involved in the present day. So we become passive recipients of a decision by the state. Okay, so we need some kind of accountability before actually creation and also renaming. Do the public at large in the district, do you really accept that renaming? Right. So these questions, what we said is we need to have a deliberative process and consultation before actually splitting the districts.
Dr. Partho's question was, given the larger-than-life figure of district officers of British India, can you generate a sense of the key British India districts in terms of area and population, as compared to today's district magistrate? For example, in British India, the average size of districts were about 16,000 square kilometers as compared to 4,000 square kilometers now. Though the average population size is comparable, the variance is high from 10,000 in Dibang Valley to 10 million from Mumbai.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, in the colonial time, of course, the prime cities like Kolkata, Madras, and Chennai, sorry, Kolkata, Madras, and Bombay. So they were the main economic actors. Their density, like, let's say Kolkata itself, Kolkata and 24 Paraganas, the most densest city even in the colonial period. And then came the Bombay. Bombay crossed the 1 million figure in, I think, just at the turn of the century. So Kolkata had crossed it just before that. Okay. So, and they were the prime, and later cities and districts are also closely interlinked in terms of the city evolution, and district evolution is also linked. Surat, for example, at some point, Surat was a very prime city and prime district, but Surat declined during the 19th century and Bombay took over. So, in that way, the Surat district importance also declined till the early 20th century. Then Surat again rose into prominence after the diamond industry, etc. Okay, and Delhi was declining, and after the 1900, when capital shifted, Delhi as a city rose, and Delhi district population also increased rapidly. So then you will have to trace the longer history of all these cities and the districts to understand this in detail.
We had some more questions, but unfortunately we are a little over time. So we need to close this because there's a faculty meeting after this. So we need to, I mean, I'll send you the questions, and if the people are there, can you ask them to write their emails, etc. This can be answered. I just write. Your ID is Shivakumar at link.edu, right?
Kumar, .jolad.
At flame.edu. Yeah. So I sent you Kumar's email. These questions can be sent to him there are questions on impact of ecological boundaries on district creation, which is very interesting. What is the oldest district of India? That's one factual question if you want to answer. It's from Avinash Khandekar from Bhopal.
Actual question. Sorry, I have to check. Sorry, it must be from your state.
Yeah.
So please see.
Electoral boundaries, but it can be answered. So, but thank you very much for this talk. I mean, you have a number of accolades from here that people say remarkable. Vasudev Chaudhary, Sorbonne, Paris, North Union, he says remarkable work, congratulations, and many people actually find this fascinating. I think it's an immense contribution to the academic community in general, what you are doing, and looking forward to get more out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Shiva.